Dearly beloved, we are gathered here in a very hard task, the best movies of the 1980s from anywhere. Let's go for it. I think I'm going to do top 25 1980s movies coming up next. In relative order, although I could move some of these around, 25 is Aliens, 24 Repo Man, 23 Breaker Morant, 22 Kagemusha by Kurosawa, 21 Where is the Friend's House by Kiarostami. I went through this quickly because I want to document the top 20 in a little bit more richer way, but I just want to mention that I have a list on letterboxd.com. You can check it out. Greatest 80s movies, in my opinion. I knocked a number of them down that I personally don't like as much. I don't think are as complex or as interesting as everybody else. Notoriously, E.T., Raiders of the Lost Ark. I'm not as big of a fan as Raging Bull as everybody else. That made the number one slot, I think, in Siskel and Ebert's best movies of the 80s list. So this is definitely my own list. Do with it as you please. You can knock it, but I think I did a lot of research and homework according to my own tastes. Okay, number 20, film debut, Michael Haneke, The Seventh Continent. Here we get a movie about bourgeois existence in Europe, maybe also America, wherever in the world, and how it plays out based on a real life story. A very haunting, terrifying movie. I would say a very dark Jacques Tati-like movie in a lot of ways. It's super disturbing. That's giving even a little bit away. You should read nothing about it and you go into it, but I think this is a very strong movie with a fascinating title. Number 19 by one of the masters, could arguably one of the top three. You could put it way up there. It's the 5-hour Fanny and Alexander by Ingmar Bergman. Actually, there's a 3-hour version of this, but the 5-hour version is the one to watch. This is rich, insightful, in-depth by a master filmmaker. If you haven't seen it, you got to see it or try it, as I think Bergman's best movie, one of his top 3 or 5 at least. Number 18, I'm rating this pretty highly. Maybe to highlight it, I was really rocked by this movie. I thought it was great. It's very long. Sidney Lumet, who did a number of great movies here. Prince of the City. Has anybody heard of this? Yes, Martin Scorsese has. He calls it one of the best movies I think he's ever seen, one of the best Lumet movies ever, which means it's a great movie. Number 17 is one of those that could be number 1. It would be on a lot of people's list. It's been very highly rated on letterboxd.com. The 1985 Russian war tale, Come and See. This very disturbing movie, haunting, gripping, about a young kid getting, launched into the war, World War II, fighting on the side of Russia against the Nazis, invading Nazis. I did a number of videos on this. Check out my writings on this. It's just, you have to see it. It's crazy production and a fascinating movie in so many ways. I guess World War II features pretty high on this list because number 16, I'm surprised I rated it this highly. Maybe I should knock it down. I really want to highlight it though, Mephisto. Great movie about a German actor wants to be big in the German theater scene circa the 1930s, but the Nazis, and he rises up as the Nazis gain power and they put him in positions of influence in the German theater industry. This creates all kinds of nasty problems for him. There's a Faustian bargain going on as he literally plays Mephistopheles in Faust. I love the ending of this movie. I think this is a fascinating movie. I think it should be in the top 50. I mean, maybe it shouldn't be 16 as I'm thinking about it, but it was really fascinating to me as I watched it. As we go up this list, I value more comedic, sweet, life-affirming movies, and you're going to get more of that as we go. That's number 15. Although it's melancholy, it's Babettes Feast. What a wonderful movie about an artistic woman in a very small-town community that can't appreciate her, and yet, it's a deeply religious movie. It's fascinating in every single way. I did a video on most of these movies, by the way, but this one I think is outstanding in so many ways. Check it out. Well, number 14 is another culinary movie. This one is fascinating because it's just two people talking the whole time. My Dinner with Andre. Andre Gregory, Wally Shawn here in great performances, well done script. Louis Malles, the director. Fascinating postmodernist movie, again about theater, because one of the focuses here, I think in this decade, early parts of the decade, in the 70s too, theatricality, performance, life as a performance, these kind of issues come up in these movies. 13, kind of another entertainment movie. I think this one is fantastic in every way. It sums up the whole of rock and pop history up to this point. This is Spinal Tap. Amazing. Rob Reiner's directorial debut. He would go on to make several excellent movies. After this, Christopher Guest is in this, who would go on to become a great filmmaker. The Spinal Tap guys would go and do concerts. I think they still do. I mean, this thing, everybody loves it who's a rock musician, and they affirm its reality in so many ways. But it's a touching human story as well. I think it's a really fascinating movie for me personally to watch how it's constructed and how it sort of makes a story out of its satirical points. Number 12, also a very dark movie. A lot of dark ones coming out in early 1980s to 1984, maybe because the 1984 book, the novel by George Orwell. This one's kind of based on it, but the director said he didn't even read the book. It's Terry Gilliam's Brazil. What a wild visionary tale. I mean, that's what Gilliam basically is and does. I think this is a great movie in so many ways. I've come to appreciate it over time. I did a video on it. Go check it out. Number 11 is a real heartbreaker. It's a great quintessential American movie, but made by a German, Wim Wenders, who he did a number of other movies that would be top of this list. People love Wings of Desire. I love Paris, Texas. This is one of the most heartbreaking, heart-aching movies. The last half of it is unbelievable to me. It was one of the great movie-going experiences of my life to watch this movie and see it unfold in the last half. I think a lot of people fall in love with it for its touchingness. Is that a word? Heartbreaking, heartaching. It's like a country song. So Paris, Texas, go check it out. Now we're in the top 10. A peculiar, weird top 10 perhaps. Really, it's a top 9 as you'll see in a second, but top 10. And my number 10 movie, which I could watch, I literally watch this twice a year, 4 times a year, teaching a class on it, or class with it, that is, Woody Allen's The Purple Rose of Cairo. This is a movie about movie watching, a movie about what movies do in real life, how they intersect or say ridiculous things about real life. It has a surprise in it. I'm not going to give it away. Jeff Daniels is awesome in this. It's Woody Allen's best movie in my opinion. I think it's a perfect movie. I've watched it 25 times. It reveals something new, several things new to me every time. I think every line is pitch perfect in this. Go see it. It's fantastic. Number 9 could be my number 1. I could launch this up the list. It is legit one of my favorite movies. Now we're in the territory of best movies ever for me, not just best 80s movies. This is Local Hero by Bill Forsyth. A touching movie, a la maybe Powell and Pressburger. It has no villains in it. It's very thoughtful about the Cold War, human relations, outsiders and insiders, local places, rural places versus urban spaces, what our place in the universe is as humans, all these great questions and fascinating ways that things come together for me. Since I'm from a rural place, I love the way this describes it and the way people relate to that. So that's one of 100,000 reasons. I love the Criterion cover. Whoever the graphic designer is, thank you for this one. Numbers 7 and 8 go together. They're really one big movie, one big story, but they were released as 2 separate movies. But you can't watch the second one without the first one. It's the French movies Jean de Fleury and Manon of the Spring. Please pardon my pronunciation, but these movies are perfectly edited. A great aching Greek tragedy, again about particular places like Local Hero, even a few other things in the Paris, Texas. All these other movies are Babettes Feast, particular places. And so here you have this movie about French farmers in the early 20th century. They need water rights. And that sounds boring to a lot of people, except it's absolutely captivating in this movie. And I think any movie viewer would love these movies. I'm going to declare that. You'll at least like them, so go watch them. Number 6, maybe the best biopic ever. One of them, although maybe my number 5 is a biopic. I have no idea. But Paul Schrader's absolute genius here, I think, is on display. Citizen Kane-like relation of this guy. I don't know anything about him. If I did, maybe it would ruin the movie. I'm not sure. Mishima. Schrader does a biopic of, the Japanese author, playwright from the mid-20th century, interspersing his backstory and all of his phases of development to talk about these, typical Schrader, which is great, this sort of alienated masculine figure in the 20th century, 21st century. What do you do with these people? How do they relate to real life? Disaffected, lonely sorts of types. And Mishima is an artist too, though, so this is a treatise on artistry and growth and trying to relate to the real world and your inner world in some way. I think this movie is so perfectly made with a fantastic score. Pretty much most of these have fantastic scores up here. Go check this movie out. I think it's one of the best movies ever made, frankly. Number 5, I've loved this movie forever. I think I probably saw it when I was 6 years old. It struck me as really weird. it's still weird. Amadeus, which obviously was a big picture when it came out. I think people still love it. Weirdly, this is a big, giant Hollywood production, kind of sort of a movie musical based on a play. So it's not necessarily about the life of Amadeus. I love the depiction of envy and jealousy in this. F. Murray Abraham is perfect here. One of the best performances of any movie I can think of as Salieri, the rival composer to Mozart. This movie is saying so many great things about so many things, and that's to me what makes it great, but it's entertaining and watchable always. Number 4, as I watched all the 80s movies, especially the Oscar nominees, Best Pictures, acclaimed movies, I came to respect the heck out of it. I probably didn't like it as much as I did when I first watched it a few times, and now I've seen it again after watching all these movies. This movie explodes on the scene. There's nothing like it at all in popular, cinema at this point in time. It is a revelation to watch all these 80s movies. I'm serious. Go watch them, 80 to 88. Watch all these movies, and then you watch this movie, you will feel the same way. It's Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing. What it's about topically, what it features, the place. Here again, it's a local place question. It's an ethical question, race relations in America. There's hardly anything that's doing this in movies. So nothing is doing it like this. I just am amazed by his breadth and depth of knowledge and the inspirational visionary thing going on here. You could hate this movie and still respect the heck out of the visionary filmmaking here. So that's why this is so high, in my opinion. It withstands any critical judgments about it. Everybody in the world can hate it, and they still would have to respect the heck out of it. That's why it's number 4. Number 3, sentimental choice on my part as a kid growing up, loving this movie. I do think this movie is highly influential. Ridiculous space melodrama, maybe. Very funny, touching. A wild, great special effects. I love it. The Empire Strikes Back. Yeah, this may be ridiculously high for a number of people. I know some cinephiles will come on and try to harass me for putting it this high. I just think it's outstanding. I mean, I'm trying to make this movie. Everybody's tried to make this movie. So many movies based on it have failed so terribly. And yet this one still continues in popular culture with even just the Yoda stuff. So, and Boba Fett. So, I think this movie is outstanding. And it is a very fruitful movie, and producing a lot of great things. Also, another great score here. Now, my top 2 are going to be difficult to watch. They're not necessary for everybody. You may have to be in a mood. I think they're really complex and elusive. They have tentacles or branches is the better metaphor, out into all kinds of subject matter, gathering that subject into themselves and creating their own visionary experience. This one is difficult because, to me, you need to watch, I think, I'm not requiring this, but the director's previous movies. It's his last movie, and he's a dying man, and he knows it while he's making it, I think. It's The Sacrifice by Andrei Tarkovsky. A lot of people love Tarkovsky's Stalker, and so I would say to them, if you do, try The Sacrifice. This is a movie I struggled with first couple times. Couldn't even get through it. It's so darn slow. I had no idea what it's about. Now that I've read more, Soren Kierkegaard, the Old Testament, everything about the Cold War, science fiction at this time. There's so many things going on in this Russian history. The Sacrifice stands out as and Ingmar Bergman. You have to, this is his ode to Ingmar Bergman as well. You have to understand so many things perhaps to get it, but I think it works even if you know nothing and you can be easily hypnotized by it. It's a great Cold War post-apocalyptic movie of visionary excess, like so many others on this list. But I can't believe some of the scenes in this movie. Number 2, The Sacrifice. That could be number 1, but number 1, I am totally cheating. So I'm very sorry to cheat. Maybe you'll harass me for this. This is really a TV show. Okay, so the TV show, it came out on TV, but now it's classified as a film in a way. It's Krzysztof Kieślowski's The Decalogue. Pardon my Polish pronunciation. No, this is a 10-part TV series on the Decalogue, the 10 Commandments. It's loosely based, maybe not at all based. I think it's actually pretty rigid in following the 10 Commandments, the Catholic ones, not the Protestant version. But these 10 episodes are intersecting, they interlock. They're about modern times, Poland, late Poland in, the Cold War, coming out of communism perhaps, within communism and moving out of it, but there are particular situations. Now, this is a moralist dream, but it's also very humanistic. And to watch these TV shows interlock I can't imagine this coming out on TV at this time. How terrible American TV is. In Polish TV, no doubt, but here, the Decalogue, it's one of the most fascinating movies I have ever seen. We're studying over and over and over again. All right, there's so many movies I left out. I left out David Lynch, The Princess Bride, a whole bunch of Oscar winners, animated fare like some of the Miyazaki movies from the late 80s. I mean, the list could go on and on. Back to the Future, some American pop culture fare. There's a lot of Blade Runner. There's a lot of contenders for the top of this list. So, you know, this is my own peculiar list. What's your peculiar list? So let us know your favorite 1980s movies, the ones you've seen. And if you've seen anything weird but is totally outstanding, like my mention of Mephisto or Prince of the City, let us know in the comments. Please subscribe to this channel for more great content. Thank you. Have a great day.